Today on the Topping Show, podcaster Matt Walsh says women crying on TikTok should have their voting rights revoked. Finland claims they don't need the USA to defend them. Migrants steal from an honesty box. Subaru is bringing back their entry-level WRX. And the Energizer lamp, well, it gets recalled. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see they're found at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapters to come out to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, is Subaru bringing back the entry-level WRX in 2026, but unfortunately still no STI. But at least the entry-level is back. Now, it's brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Anthony Allianz. And they say, quote, "The cheapest Subaru WRX is back for 2026. The base WRX returns to the new year, and nearly every trim is cheaper across the board." And here you can see the Subaru WRX there on the track, as all of them should be. I do admire them. It's one of the highest take rates for a stick shift vehicle in the industry. Very rare thing. It's like above 85% actually of all WRXs sold come with 3 pedals, also known as a manual transmission, also known as the only true way to drive any vehicle. Again, credit to Anthony Allianz over there. And he says, quote, "Great news, everyone. Subaru is bringing back the base WRX trim for 2026. That means buyers will be able to get into a brand new WRX for just $33,690. That's $5,230 less than the current 2025 WRX Premium, or $3,230 less than that model when it was brand new. The new WRX arrives at dealers this spring. Not only will it be cheaper, but the base WRX now comes with more features than before. Keyless entry and push-button start are now available. It also features summer performance tires, a sport-tuned suspension, and a tire pressure monitoring system, which is one of those little accessories where I really appreciate that, especially when you go to the track. Obviously, your tires will heat up a lot when you're going around the track for 20, 30 minutes. And depending on how hot they get and how much pressure they build, when you get off the track, usually it will actually take some air out. It blows my mind that my budget level 2013 Chevy Cruze Eco had tire pressure sensors, yet my fancier, well, slightly fancier Honda Civic Si from 2018 does not have that. So it's nice that they have this, especially because, again, many of these will actually go to the track. They say features on the WRX include wireless phone connectivity, which I know I always thought that was kind of a useless feature. A rear view camera, which, I mean, no offense, they have to. That's a bullshit. It's a federal law. You have to have that. Dual zone climate control, a leather wrapped steering wheel. Okay, that's nice. Cloth upholstery, auto up down front windows, which doesn't really take that much effort to just hold the button. I digress. It'll also have a tilt and telescoping steering column and LED headlights, which, yeah, I guess pretty fancy. It's a new for this year is WRX Series Yellow. It now sits atop the lineup, which I like that. More fun colors, the better. There's nothing more annoying than seeing seemingly every car on the road be silver, black, or white. I swear Porsche especially gets silver paint for free. It seems like every 911 on the street is a silver Porsche, but I partially digress. They say that version has a sunrise yellow exterior, 19-inch black wheels, and black badging. Inside the limited WRX has black seats and yellow stitching. Also shares suspension and performance upgrades from the WRX TS, which is $685 cheaper for 2026. They say the TS comes with a STI-tuned electronically controlled dampeners, Brembo brakes, Recaro front seats, Bridgestone S2007 tires, and are also standard. I can see a couple of close-ups of WRX, which again, it just feels so incomplete without a massively comically large spoiler on the back, and of course, the STI. But they say sales for WRX are down 41.2% in 2025. That's the year Subaru dropped the base WRX offering, and the price tag spiked, by over like $6,000. Which, again, given their limited production capacity, I understand is the same thing during the pandemic, where there's a shortage of parts, shortage of manufacturing capabilities. So of the cars that the manufacturers were making, they chose more profitable, more expensive cars with limited product, or in that case, semiconductor resources that they had. Now, they say the automaker revealed last July that it had limited WRX production to prioritize the much popular and most profitable Forester. Because again, the ladies like that. Is expanding Forester production in the United States, freeing up capacity at the Gunma Japan factory where it builds the WRX. It's already building the Forester in the United States, the Forester Hybrid, production expanding to begin next spring. With a production shift, it appears Subaru can now add back the base WRX trim, which, yeah, again, it makes sense logistically. And consumers will be a lot happier because, again, the WRX, I mean, I'll bring up that price chart. When you look at the competition, it just, I don't know, to me, wasn't worth the value. Because, again, the WRX Premium, which kind of hilariously is, well, in 2025 was the cheapest product. That was $38,920, which, yeah, at that price point, I'd much rather get a Honda Civic Si, which, well, also more reliable. I'm a little biased, of course. But yeah, these price points are just so out of whack. Now, again, having it $33,690, I think it puts it in a more appropriate price category for the competition. And I think sales are going to skyrocket. And again, hopefully, with deregulation, Subaru will see, oh yeah, the United States is a massively important market in the world. Let's give them what the consumers really want, a WRX STI, which is one of those things where driving the STI versus regular is just night and day. Last generation WRX actually test drove the base model, then the STI. And yeah, the STI, you'll smell it ear to ear. It's so much fun. The base model is, well, very disappointing, but yeah, a lot more affordable. But I think this will massively help their sales increase. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Migrants stealing from a honesty box, and people are, well, shocked, saying that's due to multiculturalism. That's brought to us thanks to AKA on X, and he says, quote, wild how they track down the migrants who robbed the honesty box. Either you keep a high-trust country, or you open the door to multicultural chaos. You don't get both. That's about 24 seconds here. How many eggs is that piece of shit stealing? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it 5 by 5? I believe the trays are 5 by 5. 5, yes. 5 by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's, what was it? 125 eggs? Again, there's a reason I pay an accountant. So they both stole 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 trays of eggs, about 125 eggs a piece. This guy, I think, is stealing potatoes or something. What's the other bag? There's a random bag of stuff, too. And they just left. And thankfully, some internet justice, thanks to, modern technology, they're able to track these pieces of shit down. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's because of multiculturalism, it's foreigners, which Americans also steal, too. I think you're seeing a big shift. Now, in terms of the percentage, they are, in many cases, committing more acts of crime, well, especially hurting women and children, which, again, another topic for another time, perhaps. But yeah, this is what happens when you don't have a high-trust society anymore. And it is sad that the United States, and again, this is also due to, well, getting into politics, liberal judges letting people out, 72 to 100 times? Ridiculous. This stuff does not happen in Dubai. They have some multiculturalism over there, not to the extent of the United States. But in Dubai, they're very, very strict on crime. I think you're seeing more and more of stuff like this happen because, well, we're not tough on crime. And yeah, certain cultures, well, honesty and integrity are differently defined there. And it's this instance where this reminds me of camping as a kid. And it's something where, going to Michigan with my dad, doing a fishing trip, you get a little camper. Well, we didn't have a camper. We just did the pop-up, I think it was a Coleman branded tent. And it's an instance where, well, it's fun to chop your own firewood, but in some cases you just buy a bushel. And especially in Michigan, a lot of families over there had a farm or they had, some extra trees, so they cut them down and they put these, trying to think of it, basically a small little wooden structure, which, well, makes sense. They got free wood from the property, but it's an instance where, be almost like a Walmart shelf with dividers. So on their front lawn, they'd have maybe 10 to 20. They have a storage unit of 10 to 20 little bushels of firewood, already pre-cut. If you want to make kindling out of it, you'd hammer it. Well, you use the axe and hammer to make it a little bit smaller. And, there's a little sign just suggested, $5 to $10. And there's no cameras. There's just a pretty robust lockbox with a, good old lock on it, of course. And, just take your cash and put them in there. And you take one bottle out. And it's one of those things where, how old was I? Maybe 5 or 6. And to me, it was very interesting. Obviously, we paid. And I was just like, I asked my dad, like, how did that get, because we grew up, unfortunately, well, for better or worse, a suburb of Chicago where, high crime. But, Michigan, a lot safer, a lot less crime, well, except for Detroit, of course. But I asked my dad, how do they stay in business? How are people not stealing it? And, my dad just said, it's about doing the right thing when no one's looking. And certain parts of the world, certain cultures, certain people, you can have things like this. And this is also not like this isn't the person's way of making a living. They're just making some extra money on the side. Like, that's, probably why they don't have cameras. Or maybe they had cameras, we didn't see it. I was a kid, wasn't paying attention to that. And I'll never forget, my dad gave me the cash, you'd have to fold up the cash to make it fit into a little slot in the cash box or lockbox. And yeah, we did that for several years. And I asked my dad, like, do people steal? He's like, yeah, probably, but they're not good people. It's going to happen, but majority of the time, you go there. I remember my dad would want the best wood, so what he would do, he would, there'd be one spare one where it's not filled up with wood already. So he'd pick and choose and make the custom one, but always make sure at the end of the day, you only took the amount that you're allocated, and each of the bushels that you took from, you mixed it around, which you could debate, is it really fair to, pick the best of the best in terms of chopped wood? But he's very measured in terms of only taking that amount that would fit into these little containers before he took any. And, you'd always leave things better than you found them type of thing. And that kind of carried over to the campground. And yes, an instance where it's sad that the culture of the United States is decaying. We're seeing more and more theft. And I hope, no, they shouldn't just be thrown in jail. Maybe they get deported or they're put in jail for 30 years, hard labor. So he's getting ROI out of these scoundrels. But it is really heartbreaking to think our country is becoming worse and worse. And again, a lot of people are saying this is due to multiculturalism. I mean, you don't have to go far to see Americans doing this in places like Chicago, San Francisco, especially. I mean, there's a lot of the cities, as I pejoratively call them, shitties, Dearborn, Michigan, where those cultures are decaying too. And you have, people who are American citizens who they're stealing left and right. And again, I think it's a culture thing as well as a legal thing in terms of the law not fully prosecuting criminals to the full extent. Because we have very terrible liberal activist judges all across the United States, even in red states too, which is also the importance of voting in everything you can. Because again, some judges are actually appointed and voted on a local level. Some, of course, are appointed other ways. But it's an instance where, yeah, these are just pieces of shit. And again, this is kind of a video from a couple years back, but it's sad to think how our country seems to be getting worse and worse, and you have less and less trust in society. You see this on the camera apps or the neighborhood doorbell apps like Ring and a couple other ones. You'll see a lot of your neighbors having stuff stolen right off their front porch because bad guys know they're hardly ever going to get prosecuted. In the United States, you can't. I think you should. Now again, it's a state by state basis. Even in Texas, you're not legally allowed to defend your personal property by any means necessary. I think you should. If you had the legal ability or legal right to defend your personal property with deadly force, and that happened a couple of times, I can't help but think theft would dramatically decrease. Now again, in places even like Texas, which is annoying in terms of I think Texas should be a lot harsher on crime. Even in Texas, again, someone goes on your front lawn and steals something from you, you can't do anything. You can't defend your property. You should be able to. You can only defend yourself and your life of your family or, the life of people around you. If you feel like your life is in danger, only then, and again, not legal advice, only then can you use deadly force, which again, I think you should be able to use it more often. But again, a lot of these criminals know more often than not, they're not going to get prosecuted and no one will know. Maybe you could say it's because they're, some of these cultures don't value religion or an afterlife or the sense of those type of moralities. I think that's definitely something that could be into play, so to say. Let's just say, you don't see this happening in a lot of heavy Catholic neighborhoods. Again, there's some charlatans in every religion, of course, but overall, I tend to think there's less in that. Now, going to the comments, when the first one comes to us, thanks to the real Dickie, says, it's not enough to reclaim the property, interest must be paid. Gave him 7 likes. Yep. Texas Nana says, in San Antonio, they'll take anything you have outside, gain 3 likes. Minnesota Jen says, quote, this behavior is precisely why other countries are shitholes they will never learn, getting 6 likes. Which, well, appropriate named Minnesota Jen because, well, they're becoming this more and more. Let's see here. But, yeah. And unfortunately, again, if you're trying to do this type of thing on your property, yeah, you have to have copious amounts of cameras, and it almost isn't worth it anymore because, again, so many people will steal, so many people will, some people even will try to take the lockbox and take the cash. It's becoming worse and worse, but maybe it's just one of those days I have I'm being blackpilled, but let me know your thoughts, because, I'm trying to think, if I had the privilege of owning a house or property, would I do this if I had, spare wood or spare eggs that I wanted to sell? And with all the hassle of the legal liability of someone coming on your property, then you have to worry about them stealing, unfortunately, at the end of the day, is it really worth the risk? Would you, if you had personal property, or if you were in this situation where you could, try to sell extra firewood or candles, would you do it, or is it not worth the risk or not worth your time? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Matt Walsh saying women crying on TikTok should have their voting rights revoked. Now, this is him actually reacting to someone by the name of Cassandra McDonald. She says, quote, another crazy liberal woman, well, was it a double negative? Well, yeah, obviously crazy liberal. Well, yeah, of course, but is crying and plotting to interfere with ICE for TikTok head pats. Let's see. Now, interestingly enough, let me check here. She does not have a cow ring on her nose. Very unusual, nor the glasses that have the rims or frames thicker than most people's legs, which leftists notoriously usually have. But yes, she is a white woman, which most of them are. And she says, a POV, you, I don't know if this is the right grammar. She says, you next to the neighbor, because you hear ICE is coming, then make sure your husband knows where to pick you up when they detain you. What? So she's saying she's illegal? What? She's crying. And she says also, how did we get here? How? Well, very easy. The Biden administration basically had an open border that allowed estimated between 13 and 20 plus million illegals to come in here. So we got here because of people like you voting for that. Voting for those government officials to break the law, be traitors. Again, none of this would be happening if there's no illegals here. Like, if we actually had a solid southern border and didn't have, well, not just them turning a blind eye and allowing it, Biden-Harris administration, but also stopping and trying to punish states that try to stop illegal immigration when they're trying to sue Texas for having the Constantina wire or trying to put some barriers there. And Matt Walsh says, quote, theatrically crying on a TikTok video should lead to an automatic and permanent revocation of your voting rights. Now, Matt only got 137,000 views and 6.5 thousand likes for this. I think he should have got more. Now, again, in terms of our country and, what makes us great and what would get our country back on track and what would help the most amount of people, he's not wrong. When you look at the statistics on who's voting for this crazy radical leftism stuff, well, liberal white women. Also, over 50% of them are diagnosed and depressed, mentally unfit, and are in copious amounts of SSRIs and other prescriptions. I'm sure this is a coincidence, of course. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Taylor Dace, and quote, he's got Wino Roseka. If she's detained, she's likely for another DUI in 27 likes. Obviously that shows how cultured I am. I know of wine. I think last time I actually had it. Now, you also have the Biblomatic man. Says, quote, your great-great-grandmother buried 3 children and still made dinner. You're sobbing into your ring light because someone disagreed with you. Gained 54 likes. John Lee says, too far. Might be time to add for a drama tax. Gained 4 likes. OU Chris says, these people are absolutely insane. Just imagine if they get to write history books. Gained 2 likes, which, well, that's a concerning thing. Not only do they write history books, but a lot of these gals are teachers in the public school system. Which, as a friendly reminder, we spent, $2 trillion on the Department of Education. And every year, the grades go lower and lower and lower. Perhaps because many teachers are more interested in talking about gender stuff and political stuff and LGBTQ stuff rather than actual history, science, mathematics, anything that'd be useful in the real world. You also have Nicholas Giordano saying, quote, Matt, you're being too hard on these brave, noble virtue signalers. History textbooks will likely remember that year as a bunch of liberal white women sobbed into their phones to stop ICE from enforcing federal law. The Rosa Parks of the 21st century gained 2 likes. Well, 1, but I made it 2. Odin, second language strategies, says, quote, and you should have to wear TT wherever you go in public. We could make it like a fun color, say scarlet, getting 5 likes. Caroline says, but it's fun, getting 2 likes. J5 says, seems extreme, but intriguing, though, getting 3 likes. Scotty Rabbies has a picture of a leftist girl, says, quote, I should film my mental breakdown and post it online, getting 20 likes. Yep. David Sprout has a picture of a guy holding a sign, says, quote, if you record yourself crying and put it on the internet, I hope whatever you're going through gets worse, getting 7 likes. Paul Cregan says, Grandpa, why did civilization end up this way? You know, it looks like dystopia or modern day San Francisco. And it says, liberal white woman, grandson, getting 2 likes, which, yeah. America as Trump simply has a picture of her saying retard, getting 3 likes. Joey FAFO says, white liberal women will vote for this. You have a gal jumping in joy saying, defund the police, Black Lives Matter. And a black guy in hoodie goes up and punches her in the face, getting 14 likes, which, I mean, yeah, these ladies also vote for those judges that let criminals out, was it 72 times, and they still go out and kill and steal? But they want them to have, not just second chances, but 70 plus chances. Let's see. Biden's missing brain has for having a missing brain, he has an exceptionally well quote by one of the best artists and writers of all time, George Orwell. And it says, quote, it was always the women, and above all, the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of the slogan, the amateur spies and nosers out of unorthodoxy. Game 12, basically 13 likes. Again, George Orwell, 1984. The only sad part of that book, well, many sad parts about that book, the saddest part is that modern day governments are much worse than the ones imagined in that novel, which, again, exceptionally good novel. Sad book, but unfortunately, all too real. Let's see here. Jason Miller says, well, no woman should be allowed to vote. It's clear they are the problem, getting 3 likes. Which, I mean, if you break down how men and women vote, well, women overwhelmingly vote for Democrat Party, bigger and bigger government, more and more authoritarianism. Let's see here. EFan88 says, that's just, again, these grammar is abhorrent, but I'll read it as it's written. That's just repeal the 19th Amendment with extra steps. Let's see. Deborah says, here's a better picture of her. You want some of these? You want some wine, cheese with that wine, Buttercup? There's a picture of it says liberal white woman, but she doesn't have enough rainbows on her t-shirt. And her hair is too long. But nevertheless, she does have the cliche cow ring, and it's attached to a collar and unleashed, and that goes to an arm labeled the Democratic Party. C.F. Dalton says, quote, can we just admit the 19th Amendment was a mistake, getting 7 likes? Swamp Rat Watch says, I hear they're opening up the mental asylums again. If you film yourself crying on the internet, they should take you and let you chill out in one of them for a while, getting 3 likes. Let's see here. SK says, you could fix this woman's delusion by turning off her TV for 2 weeks, getting 2 likes. Anthony says, quote, how many tears did she shed for the thousands of people who died because of Biden's open border? Getting 4 or 5, let's make 5 likes. Yeah, I'm guaranteed she does not know the name Laken Riley, though she should. Yeah, novel idea, but yeah, I don't think it's actually, in terms of, losing their voting rights, I don't think it'll happen, but let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the president of Finland saying they don't need America to defend them, which apparently he's not trying to be a stand-up comedian, though it is hilarious. Little Finland thinks they can defend themselves, which, no. Now, this is thanks to Libs of TikTok, and she says, quote, Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland, says Europe can unequivocally defend itself without Americans. The reporter goes, so Europe doesn't need America to defend itself? He goes, I didn't say that, because, of course, they do. I mean, we spend more on our budget and have a better military than all of them combined. Let's see what he has to say.
First is a direct answer to the question of this panel, can Europe defend itself? My answer is unequivocally yes.
Without the Americans?
Without the Americans, I mean...
You've said earlier that Europe can defend itself without the Americans. If it comes down...
not exact, that's not a quote.
More or less, more or less.
Let's...
we'll go back to the transcript.
Let's stick to the left on this one, yeah?
More or less.
Yeah, Jesus. He's got worse teeth than me. which, granted, I don't have much ground to stand on when it comes to making fun of people's visual appearance or appeal or lack thereof, but God, that guy's smile is terrible. But yeah, in terms of, who's contributing most to the defense and, who's the best capable military in the world? America, bar none. Now, it is funny also and sad that Europe and the UK have been conquered due to mass migration as their crime rates explode and unemployment also explodes. So, I mean, they've already fallen, but they're just, guess they're doing, they are busy arresting people for memes and memes, as I call them. And I thought it'd be funny. Let's compare the military of the U.S. versus Finland because it is comical. Now, here's the most active US military, just by numbers. Obviously, quality is more important than quantity, though obviously we have better quality as well. The U.S. has between 1.3 and 1.4 million active military members. Finland has 23,000 to 24,000. In terms of active military personnel, the U.S. has 2.1 million. Finland has about 280 to 950,000. Defense budget, USA, America spends between $900 and $997 billion, while Finland spends $6 to $6.5 billion. US has more than 13,000 aircraft. What do we have in Finland? A couple hundred. Yeah, in terms of technology. Also, it's controversial, the defense industry. However, in terms of, you look at the global defense industry, where they're headquartered, where they build things, where they do research and development, pretty much every major manufacturer is headquartered in America, innovates and creates it here. Now, granted, we also sell that to some of our allies as well. But in terms of, just off the top of my head, who's the biggest dogs in that dogfight? Well, you got Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon RTX. I mean, they're pretty much all. I mean, the UK has BAE Systems, best known for working with Nissan. I'm only partially kidding. They make munitions and some tanks. But in terms of the US dominance, it's all headquartered here, bar none. And he's saying, oh yeah, they don't need us. I mean, it's one of those things where Finland, it's just almost, it is comical to say they don't need help. Now, maybe people say they're so weak and spineless, who would want to attack them? Well, they got some natural resources people might want to take. One of the first comments comes to, well, I'm a little biased. The guy's the most handsome of all the comments. Me, the topping show, I say, quote, LMFAO, Finland and each of the EU countries could be conquered by 30 guys from Texas, getting 22 likes, which, yeah, give or take. I can't help but think the average Texan is more armed and more capable than the average Finland soldier. He also said, Paul Zupa says, quote, I mean, it's funny getting 42 likes. DD says, quote, to those who say Trump divided our country, you're right. He divided the common sense from stupidity and evil, getting 113 likes. Also have, let's see. Oh, Wealth 17 says, folks better wake up because without America, there'd be no free world, getting 20 likes. Yeah. I mean, you also have Trump should, no. In terms of forcing our values and other cultures, well, I would argue our superior values like freedom of speech, Trump should be doing a lot more. He's not, in terms of using economic and political leverage against some of these draconian, evil, totalitarian governments in the EU, and the UK. I mean, the UK arrested more people for speech than any other country, including Russia and China. I'm sorry, China, as Trump would say. I mean, why not say, you know what? If you want to trade with America, we're not going to allow you unless you let your citizens speak their mind. Unless you let your citizens defend themselves. Again, Canada is such a weak and pathetic and conquered country in terms of evil government overruling everyone. The police tell you to leave your car keys on the front porch so thieves can just take that. And then, because they just want your stuff, they don't want to hurt you. One of those asinine evil things I've ever heard. I mean, you're not even allowed to defend yourself with a gun in all those countries. And yet Trump's not really pushing those countries. Now, again, you could argue, is that really our business? Gets into geopolitics. I mean, a lot of people saying we need to be more isolationist these days. But again, in terms of non-military intervention and human rights, I would argue that's not a terrible idea. Donald simply has a close-up of the guy's teeth, getting 3 likes. Which, yeah, I know I don't have much ground to stand on. Though I did get braces a long time ago. Brian Rafferty says, quote, translation, of course we can defend ourselves, but it's so much cheaper if the U.S. does it. Yep, getting 36 likes. Yeah, in terms of you look at the NATO, there you go, NATO defense right there. Stephen Hoffman says, it's like when your teenager threatens to move out, then remembers they'd actually have to survive on their own, getting 55 likes. Prince Panwar says, quote, can anyone tell me why America has been paying child support to his 13 European wives? And you can see the NATO spending with the US being, one of the biggest ones. There's a percentage of GDP. Poland actually based, they're at 3.9%. The US is at 3.5%. But yeah, this is where Trump really made waves a couple years ago when he realized, hey, you all made a commitment to spend at least 2% of your GDP on defense. Majority of these useless NATO members and leeches were not. He said, well, if you're not contributing like you said you would, why would we defend you? You're not living up to your part of the contract, which I loved when he said that. Although I would actually just prefer to get rid of NATO completely. How does it help people like you and I? Doesn't. Yep. Steal more of our tax dollars every paycheck. Got 58 likes. Here we go. Nice infographic. Andrew says, Europe is insane. And here you see an infographic where, yeah, US spends $968 billion per year on defense. And the closest one is Germany at $98 billion. That's the number two is Germany at $98 billion. Also known as nothing. That is slightly more than 10% of what we spend. Yeah. I got 48. Oh, let's make it 49 likes. Let's see here. Creators Outlet says Europe can't defend itself from its own invaders that they welcome in willfully. Getting 16 likes. Yeah, unfortunately. If Denise Brown says he literally said that. What a funny little liar. Game 7 likes. RBA News says, quote, what a disgusting worm. I'm tired of these snooty effing Europeans acting high and mighty while spitting on our faces. We should leave them to rot and defend themselves and pet their own protection. I think he meant pay their own protection. This means bye-bye to U.S. protection and bye-bye to free healthcare and robust welfare services. Make it 7. Whoa, I made it 3 likes, going to make it 4. It's at 17 likes. Yeah, one of the reasons why they have all the free stuff over there in terms of healthcare, college, yada, yada, is because they don't spend shit on defense. And I'll never, again, in terms of snobby European, one of the cliche things, they say, why do you Americans need your firearms? Which, I don't know what country that was supposed to be. It's just a foreign one. It's a terrible accent. I'm sorry. I mean, one of the most important things about the United States is freedom of speech, freedom to defend ourselves to the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. Again, people in the EU and UK are being arrested for memes. In some cases, those arrests are more harsh. I mean, there's a gal who was abused by an immigrant in the worst possible way. Try to keep this moderately family friendly. She made a meme about it. The punishment was harsher for her than the person who abused her. That is disgusting. I mean, there should have been a revolution that day. Again, Europeans are so weak and conquered. They go, oh no, government, you know best. You keep doing what you do. That's why, again, you never give up your firearms. Because once you do, everything gets worse for the civilians. If you look at history, the worst things ever always happened after the governments stole the guns from the people. You also have belt-fed reverend saying, quote, I guess you could say he's finished. Which, again, that's a good pun. Davey says it's all crashing down for the EU, getting 7 likes. Army of the Waken says Europeans' smug sense of self-righteousness. 1 minute we don't need America, next, just kidding, I do need you. Yep, getting 14, so I get 15 likes. Josh Ryan says, F man, these people are such liars and frauds, getting 8 likes as well. Yeah. Mitch says, these people want to be so tough, so bad, but behind closed doors, you know they're panicking. Getting 25 likes. Yep. Erica says, lies like these, that the European leaders spew will never make it to the masses because the media is fully compromised. Getting 13 likes. Yep. You also have Salt Disney saying, quote, Europe talks big on self-defense until reality hits. Still America's freeloading allies. Getting 53 likes now, actually. American Citizen says, Europe, we don't need America. Also Europe, wait, that's not what I meant. Getting 88 likes. Yeah. He also says, or this is also from Salt Disney, says, Finland's president folds instantly, can't defend squat without the U.S. muscle and money. Getting 63 likes. Yeah. In terms of decreasing our NATO spend and decreasing how much we do internationally in terms of defending all these countries that, well, don't defend and don't contribute much to us, I think you are having a pendulum swing in the United States where more and more people are asking, why are my tax dollars going to everything except me, my family, my local community? Why is it paying for that? So I don't know. I think more and more Americans will want to leave NATO throughout the years, but let me hear your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the business blunder of the day, Energizer recalling their battery-powered little lantern because, whoops, it might just overheat. Now, this brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, though granted pretty low bar. And they say, quote, Energizer recalls rechargeable lanterns due to overheating. Here you can see the cute little lantern there. Now they say, quote, the hazard is the lithium-ion batteries installed in lanterns can overheat, posing a burn hazard to consumers. Whoops. Looks like they were produced June 2024, and that's going to be in the molding. So year 24, month 6, with the arrows pointing there on the bottom with the date code. And yeah, it seems like, I don't know how much people cheap out in terms of these companies, but anytime lithium-ion is involved, you should probably overspend on the safety and the engineering, because it's not half the recalls on the show or business blunders, but it's up there. Now, they say, quote, this recall involves the Energizer large power indicator lantern. The lantern is a cone-shaped portable light with an opaque lens and Energizer displayed on the side. Top portion of the lantern is engraved, large button on top and red handle. Model number is BG8AL9. And the model is located on the bottom of the light on the removable cover that provides access to the charging cord and storage area. Consumers should immediately stop using the recalled lanterns and contact Energizer for instructions on how to receive a full refund. Consumers will be asked to register the recall by providing proof of the effect code date. Consumers will be then sent a prepaid shipping materials to return their recalled lantern. Once after return, customers would have an issue fully refunded. Now, thankfully, it overheated a little bit. But as of right now, the firm has received only one incident of it overheating, and no injuries or deaths have been recorded thus far. It is sold at Meyer, which is still in business somehow. I'm kidding. They're not in the South, but go to the Midwest. Meyer is still around. Also sold at Blaine Fleet wholesale stores nationwide, as well as Amazon.com from January and November 2025 for between $35 and $45. Now, these are imported by Energizer Holdings of Clayton, Missouri, manufactured in China. And granted, this is one of those funny little things where, again, this isn't the core of their business. They make, obviously, mostly batteries that, you throw into all your fun devices, the AA's or AAA's, what have you. This is very much, not a core part of the business, but again, they still put their logo on it, and people are going to think of Energizer, not the third-party OEM who realistically white labeled this for them. But as the Energizer, you're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.